Hey, first grade. Welcome back to Reading Workshop Tips with Mrs. Lee. And Travis is back to read with us again today. Today we're going to be practicing thinking about how the characters' feelings change from the beginning to the end of the story, just like what we did on Tuesday. Now, in order to get ready to read today, you're going to open up your YouTube workbook to page number 39. And you're going to notice there's a little mistake. Say, that's okay. Totally. We all make mistakes. On the top of this page, it says 526 reading workshop. Even though today's date is 5/29, May 29th. But as long as you're on page 39, you're in the right place. And this should be for Friday of this week. Today we're going to read a new book called Giraffes Can't Dance. And as we read, we're going to be thinking about how the main character's feelings change from the start of the story to the end. I love this story and I can't wait to get started. Here we go.
Giraffes Can't Dance by Giles Andreae and Guy Parker Reese. Gerald was a tall giraffe whose neck was long and slim, but his knees were awfully crooked and his legs were rather thin. He was very good at standing still and munching shoots off trees, but when he tried to run around, he buckled at the knees.
Let's stop and pause here for a second. Does this remind you of another character that we read about in a different book for Reading Workshop? Remember when Molly Lou Mellon kept dropping dishes because she was not being careful? And we had another word to describe her. Someone who's not careful and falls down a lot like Gerald, or isn't very smooth or graceful. If you know it, say it. Exactly. Clumsy. Gerald is not a graceful dancer. Kind of clumsy. He falls over when he tries to dance. Let's keep reading.
Now, every year in Africa, they hold the jungle dance, where every single animal turns up to skip and prance. And this year, when the day arrived, poor Gerald felt so sad, because when it came to dancing, he was really very bad.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It said that he's feeling sad, but I want us to think about a more specific word, because remember, we've been trying to work on finding words other than just sad or mad or happy. So how else is he feeling at the beginning of the story? Like on this page right here. Yeah. It says when it came to dancing, he was really very bad. Then I see him watching all those other friends dancing. He's not just feeling sad or bad. I think he's feeling nervous. He's feeling nervous because it's time for the jungle dance, but he's not a good dancer. So let's write this down. I wrote Gerald is feeling nervous, and I also added he's feeling left out because he thought he was a bad dancer and everyone else was dancing. You can pause the video here if you want to take a moment to write that down, and then we'll keep going with the story.
The warthogs started waltzing, and the rhinos rocked and rolled. The lions danced a tango that was elegant and bold. The chimps all did the cha-cha with a very Latin feel. And 8 baboons then teamed up for a splendid Scottish reel. Gerald swallowed bravely as he walked toward the floor. But the lions saw him coming, and they soon began to roar. "Hey, look at clumsy Gerald," the animals all sneered. "Giraffes can't dance, you silly fool. Oh, Gerald, you're so weird." Gerald simply froze up. He was rooted to the spot. They're right, he thought. I'm useless. Oh, I feel like such a clot. So he crept off from the dance floor, and he started walking home. He never felt so sad before. So sad and so alone.
Okay, so let's pause here. This makes my heart feel so sad. In this part, I feel so sorry for Gerald because the other friends in the jungle are not being kind to Gerald. It says on this page that Gerald came to dance and all of the friends were laughing and they said, "Look at clumsy Gerald." How do you think that made him feel? And then here, oh, I feel really sad for Gerald on this page. That picture really helps me to think about how he's feeling. How do you think he's feeling in the middle of the story when everybody's laughing at him and teasing him? He is sad, you're right. Can you think of a more specific word? Yeah, I agree. I think he's feeling very embarrassed and hurt that other people are teasing him. So let's add that to our paper now. So I wrote, Gerald feels embarrassed and hurt that the animals are teasing him. You can pause your screen here so that you can write this down on your paper. If you have other words that came to mind, you can always add those in too. These are just some of the feeling words we could use, but you may have other good ideas and you can always add those to your paper. Pause it now, and when you're ready, we'll keep reading.
Then he found a little clearing, and he looked up to the sky. The moon can be so beautiful, he whispered with a sigh. Excuse me, coughed the cricket, who'd seen Gerald earlier on. But sometimes, when you're different, you just need a different song. Listen to the swaying grass and listen to the trees. To me, the sweetest music is those branches in the breeze. So imagine that the lovely moon is playing just for you. Everything makes music if you really want it to. With that, the cricket smiled and picked up his violin. Then Gerald felt his body do the most amazing thing. His hooves have started shuffling, making circles on the ground. His neck was gently swaying, and his tail was swishing around. He threw his arms out sideways, and he swung them everywhere. Then he did a backward somersault and leapt up in the air. Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was open wide. I'm dancing! Yes, I'm dancing! I'm dancing! Gerald cried. Then, one by one, each animal who had been there at the dance arrived while Gerald boogied on and watched him, quite entranced. They shouted, "It's a miracle! We must be in a dream! Gerald's the best dancer that we've ever seen! How did you learn to dance like that? Please, Gerald, tell us how!" But Gerald simply twirled around and finished with a bow. Then he raised his head and looked up at the moon and stars above. "We all can dance," he said, "when we find music that we love."
All right, so let's pause now that we've made it to the end. And these are some of my favorite pages and my favorite illustrations in the book. Look at Gerald on this page. He's really, really, really doing a beautiful dance. And I'm zooming in on his face to show what his face looks like because that can help us to think about how he feels. And look at on this page. And I'm remembering it said, Gerald felt so wonderful. His mouth was open wide. So there's some text evidence that might help me add on to some feeling words. And here he is dancing. Now, what are some words you could use to describe Gerald? And don't just say happy, because that's kind of like a boring feeling word. We can be even more specific. So yeah, it said he felt wonderful. What did you think about this picture? How was he feeling on this page when everyone was watching him do the beautiful dance? How would you feel if you were Gerald? Definitely. I think he's also feeling proud. So Gerald is feeling proud and he's feeling wonderful. And I might even add one more word. I think he's feeling really joyful because in the beginning, he didn't think he was a good dancer. But then in the end, he realizes that he can be a beautiful dancer if he just believes in himself. So let's add this to our notebooks. All right, so you can pause the screen here if you need to. I wrote, Gerald feels wonderful, proud, and joyful because he did a beautiful dance. So if we were retelling the story, when we got to these different parts of our retell, we would want to make sure we include these feelings in the beginning. So for example, after I talked about the things that happened in the beginning of the story, then I would want to say, in the beginning, Gerald was feeling nervous and left out because he thought he was a bad dancer. And then I could go on to retell about how Gerald's friends were teasing him and he came and was ready to do a dance, but other people were telling him he was clumsy. And then I could add those feelings into my retell because great retells always include the feelings from the beginning, middle, and end. So then I could say, in the middle, Gerald feels embarrassed and hurt that the animals are teasing him. And then finally, I could go on to explain some of the key details from the end of the story. And then at the end of my retell, I would want to make sure that I include those feelings. So I could say, Gerald feels wonderful, proud, and joyful at the end of the story because he did a beautiful dance. Now, of course, once I finish my whole retell and I include all these character feelings, I could also add a lesson in. And this story definitely has an important lesson. What lesson could we learn from this story? Definitely. Yeah, I think a lesson that he learned is it's okay to be different. And just because you dance different or you do something different from another person doesn't mean you do it badly. It might just mean that you do it different and that's okay. So if other people tell you you can't do something, you should just do it in your own way. And you should feel proud of yourself for doing it in the way that you do it. All right, so now it's your turn. Just like on Tuesday, you're going to find your own fiction book now. You can find a book at your house or you can choose a book on Epic. It should be a fiction book so that you can follow a character from the beginning to the middle and the end. As you read, I want you to write down how the character's feelings change throughout the book. Then if you want to do even more practice, you can practice doing a retell with that book where you include how those feelings change. Happy Friday to each of you. I hope you have a great afternoon of reading and growing your brains. I'm so proud of each of you. And I can't wait to see you again soon. Bye.